Good morning and welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty at Haggerty10 on the X handle or Twitter or whatever it's called. I don't know, whatever, X. And I'm joined today, and I'm delighted to be joined today actually, because it's a while since we've both been on the same broadcast, by Herald sports writer Graeme McGarry. Good morning, Graeme, how are you doing?
Morning, Tony. Doing well, mate. Thanks. Yourself?
Yes, I'm very well. Now, before we do anything, pleased to announce that the Celtic Way has a new sponsor. So bear with me, troops, as I tell you all the details of this. Now, this show is proudly sponsored by MPH Group, who are Scotland's award-winning family-run all-trades specialist covering all of mainland Scotland. So if you're dreaming of a new kitchen or bathroom, or you're needing a boiler installation, repair or service, MPH Group has you covered, because they specialise in kitchens, bathrooms, boilers, and even home cover plans with flexible finance options available. They can make your dream transformations come to life, and they have over 20 years of experience in home improvements. But here's where it gets even better. Every service that you opt for automatically enters you into MPH's incredible holiday giveaway, so you can now picture yourself and dream of enjoying a 7-night stay at the luxurious 5-star Moon Palace Resort in Cancun, Mexico. So check them out. The links are in the description to the podcast and the briefing. And so we thank MPH Group for their sponsorship. So there you go. New sponsor, MPH Group. Thank you for that. I think I did that quite well there, Graeme. I'm quite
That was very polished, mate. Yes, well done.
Indeed. So have a look at the links on the website, and thank you guys for that. And before we do anything else, just ask you to look at the ticker tape running along the bottom, and you can help us by subscribing to the Celtic Way. Hit that subscribe button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Something on there for everybody with regards to the website, and you can subscribe for free to the YouTube channel, and you see the videos, myself and Graeme and various others. Now, Graeme, Celtic, we'll talk about them, shall we? 22 points out of 24, the second international break of the season, 7 points clear at the top of the table. I mean, even at this early stage, they're looking as if they're going to improve, and they may take some stopping. But how impressed have you been with Celtic since the start of the season? Or have you not been that impressed, or do you think they'll get better?
I've gradually been more and more impressed by them, Tony, and I think that's probably the prevailing opinion amongst supporters. You know, I think it was a wee bit of a sluggish start. I mean, obviously the results were still there, but I think you look up to that spell where they played up to the St Johnstone game. Obviously, had a lot of injuries at that point as well. That performance that day wasn't great. I think probably the only thing irritating Brendan Rodgers will be it's not 24 from 24, because of all the games to drop points, you know, that was one that really wasn't expected, because St Johnstone, they've improved as well, but particularly at that point, they were chucking in new players left, right and centre. And to be fair, there was a wee bit of fortune attached to that, and the goalie for St Johnstone, Mitov's been great, so he had a stormer that day. But you can't really complain with the stats, you know. I mean, 22 points, 24. The win at Ibrox, I think, is obviously the standout result, and one that probably people didn't expect, you know, after coming off the back of that St Johnstone game. The injury issues that Celtic had going into that, I think that was hugely impressive, because it showed, and this is something Brendan Rodgers has touched on, it showed a real steeliness, a real kind of mental resilience that this squad of players have got, and it's right throughout the squad, you know, because these guys, you look at the likes of Liam Scales, who played that day, who we might talk about later on, who probably wasn't expected to play that day, but for injuries, and he's been fantastic. So I think all in all, Brendan will be really happy with the way the season's gone so far. He can't complain about being 7 points clear. I know there's a bit of a mess going on at the other side of the city, but you know, I think Celtic can only do what they have got in front of them. They can only play the teams that are there. And considering the kind of selection issues that Celtic have had, I think they've been really impressive. And I think as the season's going on, they're getting more and more impressive. And you can just start to see wee signs, I think, that everything's starting to click into place. And some of the football they've been playing, I think probably from Livingston onwards, has been really quite impressive.
You can control the variables, Graeme. That's all you can do. And as you say, they were they were impressive against Livingston. That was one of the least troublesome trips to the Tony Macaroni that Celtic have had, despite going down to 10 men and having their goalkeeper sent off. But they made light work of it. They made light work of it again on Saturday. And I spoke to Stuart Ross yesterday, and I said I had seen the improvement or the marked improvement from the Rangers game onwards, because that's what I agree with you. A standout results go from the start of the season. That's been the standout result for me.
Yeah.
Because there was a performance there too, and I could see the kind of green shoots of recovery in terms of Celtic improving and getting better. And I think it's a gradual incline, isn't it, with Celtic in terms of performance. Now they're just hoping that they can translate that domestic performances into Europe. Well, they've not played particularly poorly, but they've had two losses, Graeme, basically,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a wee bit harsh to say they haven't played particularly poorly. I think they've played pretty well in the European games. I think it's familiar feelings, and I think that's probably the frustrating thing, that they're still not sort of learning from the mistakes of last year and the errors that were made last year. And the players have spoken a lot about that. I mean, it was quite interesting after the Lazio game talking to Greg Taylor, and he was saying a lot of the stuff that he was saying maybe a year ago. Oh, we're getting closer, we're learning. But then even he himself said, I'm fed up saying this stuff. He's like, because, it's all one talking about it, but you've got to put it into practice. And we feel as if we are getting closer, but there's no point in bumping my gums about it. We've just got to go out there and do it. I'd say that's probably the one frustration from this season so far, is that particularly that Lazio game, Celtic should have won it, in my opinion. Should have won it out of the park. They dominated that second half. I thought probably the best 45 minutes they've put together this season, considering the level of opposition they were up against.
Yeah.
And it was just frustrating the way that it all sort of unravelled at the very last.
I was kind of meaning that they've not played particularly poorly in terms of the European game, but maybe not got their just desserts.
Yeah.
Because I thought they've played all right, in Europe, especially the Lazio game, and they're a VAR decision away from probably netting the winner from Palma, but I mean, the replay showed that they were, But I think it's clear to see that they are a work in progress under Brendan Rodgers, but they're certainly getting a lot better than they were from when they played Kilmarnock, the second game of the season down at Rugby Park. Brendan touched upon that on his before the weekend game as well. Said they were a different team and a different animal kind of thing, and they showed that on Saturday. And it was good to see Reo Hatate approach something like his best again, Graeme. It was a wonderful finishing goal that he scored.
Aye, he was great. And we got him after the game as well. And it was really, he's really candid. He's got a real honesty about him. And some of the things he was saying, like maybe it was lost in translation a wee bit, I don't know. But he was saying that he basically hadn't been putting in the maximum effort, and since he come back in the summer, and he had to sit down with Brendan, and there was always going to be a period of adjustment, I think, especially for the players who came in as Ange's players, to then lose Ange and have to kind of adapt to what Brendan wants from them. I think that was always going to take a wee bit of time, particularly for those guys. And I think Hatate himself, there was a lot of speculation about his future. He'd picked up a wee injury. So when he came back into the team, big things were expected of him, and it didn't quite happen straight away. But he was really honest about that and said, it has taken a wee bit of time just to kind of get my head settled. Got his new contract signed now, so I think hopefully that will settle him down. And it seems as if Brendan Rodgers has really kind of made it his mission to take him under his wing a wee bit and just give him a wee bit of extra attention. And I think it was really good man management. You see the end of the game against Kelly at the weekend there, and he was embracing him on the pitch and telling him how well he'd done. And I think you can start to see now that they're buying into what Brendan's trying to get them to do. And I think we'll see the best of kind of Hatate and even guys like Maeda as well, who kind of had to adjust a wee bit as the season goes on. And even Kyogo, you look at him, like for a while there was a bit of a debate about him dropping too deep and not playing as the main striker, but I think he's starting to show that he's back to his best as well. So it's all moving in the right direction, Tony, I've got to say. And Hatate, just to touch on him specifically, that was the best I've seen him for maybe 6 months or more. On Saturday there at the weekend, he was everywhere.
Yep, and just by accident, I've written a piece on Hatate, and there it is in the comment section. I'm even speaking about the $6 million man, Graeme, long before your time.
Way before my time, Tony.
Yeah, way before your time, indeed. but it's talking about rebuilding people and all that. That's where I'm going with it. So you can have a read at that, guys. More or less saying what Graeme was saying there as well, that Brendan's taking him under his wing and he's attempting to make him better. And if you thought Reo Hatate under Ange was good, yeah, Mark 2 under Brendan Rodgers will be even better. So, yeah, there you go. You can have a read at that. Now, one of the players that came back, and this is the title of the briefing, Graeme, is Cameron Carter-Vickers USA call-up a concern for Celtic. And the reason I say that is Cameron Carter-Vickers came back against Lazio, got a cameo role there, and then played an hour on Saturday against Kilmarnock and easing himself back in. Now, he's been called up for 2 friendlies for USA against Germany and Ghana, one in Connecticut and one in Nashville. Bit of travelling involved as well. But the reason I throw that question out there is it too early, do you think, in his rehabilitation to be back involved in international football, or is it maybe just a call up to get him back in the international fold, and maybe not in terms of maybe getting minutes, or maybe just have him on the bench but get him back in and around that scene? Don't know. I can only imagine Celtic maybe had discussions with USA over that, but it just seems like a strange one, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it could be a double-edged sword, this, like I think Celtic would much rather have him here.
Yes.
Just manage his sort of workload in terms of sort of easing him back into action again. Maybe arrange a wee bounce game to get him sharpened up during the international break or something like that. I don't think they would want him, particularly with the travelling involved, to be all the way over to the States and playing a couple of friendlies. Now, I assume that there has been conversations between Brendan Rodgers and I think it's Greg Berhalter as the manager over there.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that he's managing him, because very deliberately Brendan Rodgers only gave him an hour at the weekend and half an hour against Lazio. So he's very sort of gently easing him back into action. And the last thing you want is him then flying 8 hours across the Atlantic or whatever it may be, and then another flight down to Nashville and playing 2 matches and then flying all the way back. I think the last game finishes our time at 1:30 on Thursday morning. So, that's a quick turnaround to get back as well. So, yeah, I think Celtic probably could have done without it. The other side of it is you could argue he does need games, so...
Yeah.
It might help him, get back a wee bit of match sharpness and things like that as well. But I think I'd feel better about it if the games were a bit closer to home and he wasn't having to do all that travelling. With that involved, it just makes me a wee bit wary, and I maybe think that I'm kind of surprised that he hasn't tweaked a wee hammy or something.
Well, he's got one of those Maeda injuries. From the Japan squad. Obviously, Kyogo Furuhashi and Reo Hatate are still with Japan, but Daisen Maeda is withdrawn from the Japan squad with an injury as of yet unknown. But yeah, I mean, I'm just playing devil's advocate with regards to Cameron Carter-Vickers. Ange Postecoglou said he would never stop players from representing their country, and I think players do want to represent their country. And if you ask the player, he would probably want to go. But a couple of comments coming in, Graeme, I'll read them. Manchester Boggin MD, ridiculous that they've called up Cameron Carter-Vickers after him being out so long with injury and only now just back. The player himself will obviously want to play, but I think it's very short-sighted from the USA. Lieutenant Tartan Paint saying it shows Brendan's class where he's able to adjust his style to meet the player's best attributes. Talking about basically Celtic performance just now, and Mantis come back and say, what Celtic can do if the USA assistant calling him up. Helen Feeks, let's hope CGV doesn't get injured. I think that's every Celtic supporter's wish right now. Yeah. And Patrick McLaughlin saying it's always a good sign when a player gets an international call-up. As long as he gets back home fit and healthy, that's all that matters. That is all that matters, but I agree with you, Graeme. I think Celtic would want to, just oversee his rehabilitation and that process. And, it is a double-edged sword. He needs games to get fit, get that. But travelling halfway across the world, is that ideal? Especially when the game finishes on Thursday and they're playing Tynecastle on Sunday, aren't they?
So, yeah, I mean, that's a quick turnaround, isn't it? And it's a big game as well. So, yeah, I can see why people are concerned about it. What I would say is, though, that in this day and age, the medical teams of Celtic and USA will be in touch constantly. And Brendan did touch on this a wee bit earlier in the season when he was talking about players going away the medical team at Celtic, or the sports science team, sorry, will get the info straight from the kind of GPS.
Yes.
So from training with the US, all that kind of thing. So they'll be able to monitor his workload in real time, and they'll be making sure that he's kind of not overdoing it. So yeah, I mean, I think my gut instinct is he could have done without it, but I can understand why he wants to go. He was obviously involved in the World Cup, and that was a great experience for him. There's real competition in those places for the US, so he'll want to take his opportunity. I can completely understand that, but from a selfish Celtic point of view, I think I'd much rather just have him hang about at Lennoxtown for the next few days.
Manchester Boggin comes back in. A week of training with Celtic would be more beneficial to him than a week of intercontinental travelling. He thinks that they can rule Cameron Carter-Vickers out of the Tynecastle trip already. Well, time will tell. Hazel Finn, morning Hazel, how are you doing? After gently introducing Cameron Carter-Vickers back, the international games are a bit of a worry. Hope America take it easy with them. Everything that we're kind of alluded to here. And Patrick McLaughlin is saying, for your information, folks, the Tynecastle games are 2:15 p.m. kickoff. Yeah, are aware of that, but it's still a very tight turnaround, isn't it, Graeme, to be honest,
Yeah, it's just a lot of travelling, and that takes a toll on your body, and especially your muscles when you've been playing and you've not been used to playing, sorry. So, yeah, that's a slight concern for me, I've got to say. But listen, these guys are, especially Carter-Vickers, he's in peak condition, and he's a real good athlete. So I'm sure that they'll be doing everything and taking every precaution with him just to make sure that he's fit and ready to go in Tynecastle.
Michael Ross is saying take the positives because it will make him sharper and fitter.
Yeah, we mentioned that. I think that's a good point. There is that kind of other side of it where he does need games as well. So try to look at the sunny side.
Trying to balance it all up, aren't we? Yes, indeed. Now, speaking of sunny side, to kind of comment, good luck to him, says David Blake-Lacaire. The boys have had bad luck with injuries over the past few seasons, and he's earned his international call-up. Celtic, the fans should be proud and back him. Yeah, I'm not backing him. I'm just throwing in the question as to whether Celtic fans are happy to see him go, whether Celtic are happy to see him go, or should it be a concern for Celtic? I guess it's only a concern for Celtic, Graeme, if it knocks him back on his road to recovery and he does get injured.
Listen, it's going to be a nervous week or so, I guess. I mean, it always is, when players go away on national duty, injuries can happen at any time, I just think, though, with him just being back, and as I say, been very carefully and gingerly put back into the team, I think it is just a major concern for me that he might come back with a wee knock or something, and it might set him back. But you never know. People can pick up these injuries at any point, as I said. So just need to touch wood that everything goes fine.
PMG, it's a bit disrespectful to the US management team to assume they don't know and appreciate that CV has been out injured and is just finding his way back. No, I'm sure they'll know. It just seems a strange call-up.
And as we touched on, obviously he's they'll have all the information about what he's been doing. And, as I say, I'm absolutely certain that if Brendan Rodgers hasn't spoken to the US manager, Bellhotter, then absolutely the medical teams will have spoken to each other, the sports science teams. So
they all do, don't they? They all kind of get together on these things. Jerry O'Raw, hope he comes back without an injury, and total nightmare if he does get injured, because Celtic's next two games are Tynecastle and Easter Road, aren't they, Graeme?
Yeah, so there's a big lot of fixtures coming up. So yeah, you want your best players available for those. But what I would say is, obviously, they've coped quite well without him domestically. Anyway, so there are players there, there are options there if the worst comes to the worst.
Jim Stevenson, will he play? Well, that's the thing, Jim. I don't know if he's just bringing him back in just to get him kind of back into the fold, the international fold. Jamie Young, no, don't go. If he comes back worse, I won't be happy. Capital letters to emphasise the fact that he's not happy. Good man, Jamie. Martin Davey, he reckons CCV will be fine. And Michael Ross is saying if CCV was Scottish, you'd want him in a national team, I would imagine. Listen, I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm just asking. I won't. I've always said that international recognition is a pinnacle for players, and Ange Postecoglou said that, and you can't stop them from going. I'm just saying I find that a wee bit strange, this one, considering where Cameron Carter-Vickers is in terms of his rehabilitation and getting back to full fitness and up to speed. So There you go. And Patrick McGaughlin's in 7 games in 21 days once the football resumes. So, yeah, it's a hectic schedule coming up. But on a brighter note, Graeme, Liam Scales, the Cinderella story of all Cinderella stories, he could make his debut for Republic of Ireland. And this young man's just riding the crest of a wave at the minute, is he not?
He is, and I think it'd be well deserved if he does play for the Republic in the next few days. You know, I think he's Brendan Rodgers, I think, said he was the biggest surprise his coaching career, probably, how good he was. And I think if anyone was at that St Johnstone game, the 0-0, I think we'd all be surprised at how well he's done since then, because he was kind of coming back into the team there. He was thrown in sort of needs must, because of the injuries that Celtic had. And I thought he was quite poor that day, like just being honest. I think he wasn't very aggressive. And late on, St Johnstone carved out a couple of opportunities which would have really, put the tin lid on that day because of, mistakes from Liam. From there, at Ibrox, he was absolutely immense. Absolutely immense. Brilliant. And then you see him just growing in stature, as if he's grown into the jersey, that old that old quote about the jersey being, you don't shrink, it doesn't shrink to fit a player. So you can see him just, sort of adjusting to being a Celtic player. I thought he was good with Aberdeen last year when he was out on loan.
Yep.
I didn't expect him to come back and play much of a role at Celtic. I don't think Brendan Rodgers or even Liam would have expected that, to be honest. But he's been fantastic. And from Ibrox onwards, I'd argue he's been the sort of steadying influence at the back, and he's the one who, has actually, he's the one you would hang your hat on, to be the mainstay at the back. And the big advantage he's got as well, obviously, is left-sided. A left-sided centre-back is something that, any team would really like. They're really like hen's teeth, so very rare. And I think he's come on leaps and bounds in the last few weeks, and long may continue. And I think probably he's played himself into that sort of spot as Carter-Vickers' partner in the sort of long term going forward.
Yeah, I mean, that was sensational quotes from Brendan Rodgers on Saturday, saying he's been the biggest surprise of his managerial career. I mean, that's a real praise for Liam and how far he's come in a short space of time working under Brendan, to be fair. And it's his dream to play for Republic of Ireland. I hope that he achieves that dream in this international break. I hope, like Cameron Carter-Vickers, if he does play, he comes through unscathed. I'm not averse to players playing for their countries. I just think everybody's individual case should be taken on merit. I think Liam Scales deserves to be in the Republic of Ireland international squad. I'm just surprised that Cameron Carter-Vickers has been included in the USA squad at this juncture, particularly when he's coming back off in a kind of serious injury and lengthy injury layoff. That's all. I don't grudge them going to play and represent their country, and if that's what turns out and he plays the 2 games, then so be it. It's fine. It's that's the way it is. But you just think sometimes situations, but as you say, I guess they're in constant dialogue. The medical teams and all that, and these things can be monitored and checked. But you can't legislate for going out once you cross the white line and something happening, can you? You can do all the precautions necessary, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so
all about it. John Kennedy's the obvious example. You just sometimes you can't legislate for a tackle, or something like that. But I think if you ask John, even he was delighted and honoured to be called up for Scotland at that point. It's a massive thing for players, and I don't think you can grudge them going away with their countries, especially like a guy like Liam Scales, who has come from nowhere really, in terms of his Celtic career, to being now probably a first pick and almost been on the verge of playing for his country. So I think it's a fantastic story, and it's a real kind of testament to the hard work that he's put in.
It says it all about Liam Scales, doesn't it? That he is on the cusp of earning his first cap, and that he's now in that. He's now quoted in that sentence as it's Cameron Carter-Vickers and Liam Scales in the central defence moving forward. You've still got Mike Nabrowski, you've still got Gustav Lagerbielke, you've still got Yuki Kobayashi, Stephen Welsh, and Nat Phillips as well. Mm-hmm. So he's and people are saying that he should be the guy beside Cameron Carter-Vickers. I think that's testament to his character and just testament to the makeup of the player and what's in him. And because this was a guy who was going to Ibrox to see his team get turned over, he was going to be a part of a central defence that was going to lose heavily at Ibrox. And he put in the performance of his life. He got the man of the match, and everything from then is just, he's kind of turned to gold after that, hasn't it, for him, to be fair?
Yeah, I don't think it's unfair to say that, even Celtic supporters were expecting the worst when they looked at that kind of centre-half partnership at Ibrox. And, Liam really stepped up to the plate that day. As a character, he's so self-effacing, he's so modest. And I think from his point of view, he can't even quite believe that he's managed to work his way into this position. But, fair play to him. I think he's got real talent. He can pass the ball as well, Liam. Do you know what I mean? He's comfortable on the ball, which I think is maybe overlooked sometimes. And he's a real good defender. I think after that St Johnstone game, you can see he's added aggression to his performance. I think that's been a key thing. He's always been a kind of nice football player, but he had that sort of aggressive sort of approach to the game and not taking a backward step, and especially in a place like Ibrox where there was no Celtic fans there that day. Just everything seemed to be against Celtic, and I think he was one of the key reasons they managed to pull that result out of the fire, if you like. So, I mean, hats off to him. I think he's been a real surprise and probably the success story of Celtic's season so far.
Yeah. Patrick McLaughlin, we should scrap international breaks during the season. Pete Weegie, I really don't like international football. Players can get injured in the warm-up before league games. Yeah, totally agree. Yeah. And Michael Ross is saying, gaining international recognitions for Celtic players is good for the club. It increases the players' value and they become better players. Of course they do. I'm in agreement with all of that, Michael. I was just questioning whether Cameron Carter-Vickers' inclusion was necessary at this moment in time in terms of his rehabilitation and just coming back into the Celtic squad. But I'll never argue with a player being called up for the international team, and if they want to go and the club are happy and willing to let them go, then they go.
I think that's a good point. Sorry, I was just to say about the development that international football can bring for a player, because I spoke to the Danish under-21 manager a couple of times about Matt O'Reilly, and he said they've got a specific development plan for him, so him going away there is improving his football education and making him a better player. So I think that's a great that's a great point.
It does develop them. You play against a better calibre of player at international level, it stands to reason, and you can only learn and develop and progress with that. So I'm all for it. I'm not against it, in case anybody's. I'm just posing the question. It's an international week. We need a peg to hang things on. It's very quiet. There's not much happening. So
it's something to talk about.
It's something to talk about. It's manna from heaven, as they say journalistically. There you go. Martin Davies, Scales is a brilliant player. Yep. And David Blakely-Kerr, they should make a Beckhamish Netflix documentary about Liam Scales' fall and rise again this season. He's been Celtic's best player and he shows confidence and he plays a big part in the football. Other comments as well. I've got some others lined up here. Manchester Bogan just shows you how far hard work and a good attitude can take you. And Anthony Beattie saying Scales deserves the opportunity at the national level. The way he's playing, the big man will smash it. And Mark Love, he'll learn big time beside Cameron Carter-Vickers. Of course he will, definitely. So lots of people bigging up Liam Scales, Graham, because it is a wonderful story, isn't it? Patrick McLaughlin, confidence is everything. So there you go. I believe that too. And I also think he's taken comfort and solace from the fact that Brendan Rodgers has showed real faith by continuing to play him, Graham. Because sometimes that can knock back your development if you're in the team for one or two and then out for another two. Brendan Rodgers has clearly said, "You're my man," and I'm very fond of talking about the Tour de France yellow jersey when you're leading. And he has that yellow jersey, and it's his to lose, isn't it? Because the manager's given him every vote of confidence. And I say that I kind of jokingly as well, but in terms of the fact that it is his to lose, because the manager's saying, well, you're not doing anything wrong. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep learning, keep listening, and just keep performing. And I won't be able to take you out the side because you'll be doing everything that I'm asking of you.
Yeah, it's weird how football works out. Like sometimes a player will get an opportunity and just they won't look back, and that's what Liam Scales has done. He seized it with both hands, and I think having that faith that the manager's shown in him has obviously helped him. It's helped his confidence. I think what's also helped his confidence is, and he mentioned this, was when he played against Feyenoord away, and he didn't feel as if he was out of place. Like maybe before he maybe doubted that he belonged at that level, but I think he played really well that night as well, even with all the stuff going on round about him. And I thought he was a real kind of key component of why Celtic didn't suffer a real kind of morale damaging result that night. So I think that gave him real belief to know, do you know what, like I'm not a million miles away for this. And then from then on, I think against Lazio, a couple of wee moments where he gave the ball away, but I think all in all he defended really well again. And I just think that, I mean, if you told me at the start of the season Liam Scales would be one of Celtic's starting centre-backs, I'd have said lay off the bevy, Tony, but I think he's done really well. And I think it'll be interesting to see how he does as the kind of junior partner, if you like, of the centre-backs, because I think so far he's been the one sort of leading Lager Bielka through games, because I think he's looked a wee bit, I don't want to say shaky, but he's been a wee bit...
Yeah.
He's took a wee bit of time to adjust, I think is the way to say it. And I think Liam Scales has been the sort of senior partner there. So it'll be interesting to see how Carter-Vickers can bring his game on as well. Somebody who is more experienced, somebody who's, undoubtedly, I think, a better player, bringing him on and taking him on to that next level. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that kind of partnership develops.
It's interesting when you're talking about the Feyenoord game. I think in every walk of life, even football, and especially in our own profession, imposter syndrome. I think we all suffer from it at some point, don't we?
Oh, absolutely.
I think mine's has lasted for about 26 years. The length of time I've been doing this, I used to always say, yes, living proof you can fool all the people all the time. I'm doing it. But no, I think there is that element of self-doubt until somebody puts their arm around you and says, listen, you know what to do, you can do this. And that's all you need at times, isn't it? And he clearly had that from his manager, and I think in our profession as well, we've had somebody just go like that. What's the problem here?
I think it's true of all walks of life. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely. Yeah. And with Liam Scales, when a player goes out on loan, they can take it in two ways. They can look at it as a chance to develop, or they can look at it as they're being sent to Coventry, if you like.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. So you look at, Ryan Christie's the obvious example. He's one who went out to Aberdeen, did really well, and then come back and made a real name for himself at Celtic. And it was a similar situation. He got that chance in that game against Hearts, if you remember, at Murrayfield.
Yep.
Played really well, and from then he didn't look back. And William Scales, it's the same thing. He's went to Pittodrie. He's played really well for Aberdeen. He came back to Celtic. By hook or by crook, he's been given a chance. Obviously, fates have just conspired in his favour. And all you can do in that situation is try and make the most of it. And I think Liam Scales has done that. So, fair play to the guy.
Liam Scales, he shows good old-fashioned passion playing for Celtic. There was that great moment last week when he made that challenge. You were talking about that. And I think Rory Hamilton in the commentary box said that was a welcome to Glasgow challenge. I think it was on Philly Anderson, which I thought was an apt way of putting it. And Anthony Beattie saying Liam was in the crowd last year during the Champions League games. So it's a fantastic story. I think it is. It's a wonderful story. And it's players like that, I mentioned this yesterday, that you want to see do well, Graeme, who have put their all into it and getting to that stage. When at one point, I think during the close season, if Liam Scales had left the club, I don't think the Celtic supporters would have batted an eyelid, would they?
No, I don't think so. And I think, to my mind, if it wasn't for the sort of injuries that Celtic had, I think he maybe would have left in the summer window. I don't know what his options were, but he's got to be looking at that and thinking, I'm well out the picture here. And to be fair, Brendan Rodgers has acknowledged that. I think he was probably fifth in line. And then Phillips comes in, and you think he's got a decent pedigree. He's played at Champions League level. He's going to come in and take that space. But no, fair play. Liam's he more than deserves his space. It's not as if there's lots of injuries now. Carter-Vickers is back. Phillips is up to speed. Obviously, Norowski's still out, but I think when he comes back, it's up to him to win the jersey back off Liam. And I can't see Liam being shifted from there the way he's playing at the moment.
Nope. Chill Pill says Scales can only get better, and what I thought that is most certainly is. And Matt loves saying it's one of Rodgers' biggest attributes. He knows how to speak to comfort players and improve his players and grow their confidence. I totally agree. Right, that's just short of 35 minutes. It's a short one today because of work commitments for both myself and Graeme. Graeme, absolutely loved having you on, so sorry it's a short one, but yeah.
Anytime, mate. It was great. Enjoyed it.
We'll do it again in the fullness of time. Before we go, just have to tell everybody that this show was proudly sponsored by MPH Group, and they are Scotland's award-winning family-run all-trade specialists covering all of mainland Scotland. And if you're dreaming of a new kitchen or bathroom, or you're needing a boiler installation, repair or service, MPH Group has you covered. They specialise in kitchens, bathroom, boilers, and even home cover plans with flexible finance options available. And they can make your dream transformations come to life, as they have over 20 years of experience in home improvements. And here's where it gets better, because every service that you opt for automatically enters you into MPH's incredible holiday giveaway, and you can picture yourself and dream about a 7-night stay at the luxury 5-star Moon Palace Resort in Cancun, Mexico. Who wouldn't like to go there? So you can check out more of MPH in the links attached to the briefing. But all that remains for me to say is thank you so much, Graeme, for joining me today. Really appreciate it. Guys, hit that subscribe button. We try and provide top quality journalism covering the club you love. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Cheers, guys. We shall see you tomorrow, where we'll talk some more about the club you love. Take care.